Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts, sports journalist David Todd, and from SteelersDepot.com, Dave Bryan. Just a couple of Daves, chillin', talking Steelers. Now, here's Dave and Dave.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2018. It is Saturday, August the 4th. I am Dave Bryan from Steelers Depot, and joining me, fresh from another trip to Latrobe, Alex Kozora. Alex, happy Saturday. Been a busy couple of days for you.
It has. Good to talk to you, Dave. Good to talk to you, Steelers Nation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tale of two practices. Had the Friday Night Lights practice, which is always physical, intense, and super competitive. And then today's practice, Saturday, Tomlin gave these guys a break. And he does not always do that. Didn't do it last year. But in shells today, no tackling. Felt like a first two-day practice. So not as much to talk about for Saturday, but Friday was chock full of action.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you tuning in, we hope to I still don't like to jinx these things, but I think this one's nailed down. We hope it is later on in the show. But we hope to be joined by Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Trey Johnson, undrafted free agent out of Villanova, who is currently on IR because of a shoulder injury. So we hope to have him on later. This will probably be a little bit longer podcast than normal because of that. We're going to try to cram 2 days worth of talk, 2 practices worth of talk into this show. We'll try to move as quickly as possible. Alex, and I know it's tough to try to separate what you've seen in the last 24 hours or whatnot, into 2 different days, because I'm sure at this point it's probably running together for you. But let's start with the Friday Night Lights practice. What a sight it was, or had to be, in that stadium to see Ryan Shazier walk without the assistance of a cane and all like that. I know plenty of video of that circulating the internets and whatnot, so that had to be a highlight, as had to be the backs on backers, and I think you had a nice rundown of pretty much all of it in your post last night. But for those who haven't read it yet, let's start there.
Yeah, well, actually, if you don't mind, can we just go through position by position and kind of just put the days together? Because I know we'll run long if we try to do that whole thing. But we can start with running backs. We can talk about backs on backers. And I think one guy that's impressed me overall, and I'll give you one guy that's disappointed at the running back position, Jalen Samuels, I think, is coming along nicely as a pass protector, and we knew he was super raw coming out of NC State. Rarely did it. You got to go back to his sophomore year of tape to find him getting any sort of action at pass protection. But, I know I didn't really watch the backs on backers drill the first time, the day 3 when they went pads. I know that reportedly he struggled, which, again, is no surprise, but I thought he did well Friday night, and it sounded like from other reporters said he did better, and so I thought he was square, he played with better technique, he wasn't getting overpowered. And then even watching today in some of the blitz pickup and team drills, there was one in the 2-minute offense where he came across right to left and found Mike Hilton blitzing and picked him up no problem. So, it's still going to be some issues in games. Practice and games are not the same thing, and not everything's going to be peachy keen with Samuels and pass protection forever, but I think you're seeing progress there, and I'm really encouraged by that. One guy that struggled and one guy that's kind of quickly fallen down the depth chart is James Summers. He got beat, I think, 3 straight times by Keon Adams in backs on backers with an outside, inside, and then a spin move, and he's just a guy that has not really impressed me too much in any facet of the game, whether that's a runner, receiver, blocker, what have you. So that's a guy that's struggling for reps and struggling to play well right now.
Yeah, and the thing with this pass protection thing, and we'll watch as much for it as much as we can during the preseason. You want to see the recognition, and then you want to see them eat up the grass, and then stay square and all, and actually, accomplish the block. So, there's a lot of things that go into that, a lot more than just a backers drill, which is heavily slanted, obviously, to the defense. Mike Tomlin seemed to be impressed with the way James Conner did things as well too. So that's another positive thing, because one thing we were worried about with Conner last year was the pass protection. So good news there. I assume you want to just kind of bunch all this up into 2 days worth, right? And go position group by position group.
Yeah, and I'll reference stuff from Friday and stuff from today, but again, a lot of it's Friday because today was on the quieter end of things.
All right, offensive line. Pouncey did not work, I don't think. Ramon Foster obviously out. I think Villanova came back. And for those of you concerned about his shoulder, he talked about it a little bit on Sirius during the interview on Sirius XM radio last night. They obviously are at camp at Friday Night Lights practice every year. I'll try to recap some of that in a post either for Sunday or Monday. He sounds like he has problems with that shoulder every year about this time. So I don't think it's reason to be concerned just yet. But obviously you hate, and it looked like he doubled over at one point during practice today, according to a report online. It's not stuff you like to hear about, but at this point I don't think there's no reason to be overly concerned. And of course, Chooks, the team's second of 2 third-round picks, left the practice as well, right?
Yeah, he has a right shoulder issue. Tallman said it happened Friday. He did not practice today. I saw a big ace wrap bandage around that right shoulder. Villanueva, yeah, he's practicing, so I guess he's fine. He did come off at the end of practice today at the end of their 2-minute drill, and he was kind of like doing some arm circles with his right side, and he went straight for the trainer to get some ice on that shoulder. But, I mean, he's practicing. I don't think it's a major thing. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot with the offensive line for either day. I have to go back through some more of my O-line, D-line for the Friday night because I did not do O-line, D-line today. I'm not being in pads. But some guys we don't talk about too much. Chris Schluger, I know someone asked me about him. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot from him, but he's kind of a tough, no-nonsense road grader that I think is doing well with some of the base and drive blocks. R.J. Prince, they play him a tackle. They play him a little bit of guard. He's definitely a guard. He's a guy that cannot handle speed rushers around the edge, but he's got some quick feet, I think, that could work inside. So I hope, I don't know how it's going to go, but ideally in game sessions, I hope they play more at right guard than right tackle.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who's that?
Chris Scott.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. It's a good. Hopefully, the Chris Scott timeline did not end very well in Pittsburgh, but I dig it.
Well, the thing, he ended up being a starter in Carolina for a little bit, Was
that a guard, do you know?
Yeah, I think it was at left guard, as a matter of fact there. That's my initial, obviously I haven't seen him in Steelers pads yet and all like that, but that's the initial from his college tape and the early word that I get on him it reminds me of Chris Scott. Now,
a little sloppy body, because R.J. Prince likes to wear that jersey way up by his chest.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously a guy I'm going to watch quite a bit, but it doesn't surprise me that you're saying he's probably going to be best fit as a guard.
And that's where he played mostly in North Carolina, and now they have him at tackle because of some of the injuries. So he'll probably end up playing tackle and get a little exposed, but I think you could do something there at guard with him.
All right, tight end. How's Bucky fitting in?
Bucky made a great catch Friday night. It was down the seam. Marcus Allen draped all over him, and he made the catch. Him and McKever are kind of similar, where they can make some plays as a receiver. I think it's McKeever. I've always said McKever. I'm probably going to continue to say McKever. But those are guys that can get vertical and make some catches away from their frame. Just, my goodness, do not ask them to block. They cannot do it to save their lives. And it's understandable. They're taller guys. Hodges is 6'6". I think McKeever's 6'6", 6'7", and they're young guys and they're new to the NFL, generally speaking. So they have some issues there. But as receivers, they can do something. Real quick, I want to mention this with Jesse James because I wrote about it the other day. I researched it, went through all my notes. And since he's broken into the league in 2015, he has practiced in 55 of 56 training camp practices. And for anyone, that's remarkable. And for a tight end at that position is insane. And when you talk about Vance McDonald, Darius Green, their health problems, I got to give big kudos to Jesse James for being a tough as nails, salt of the earth dude, for being out there for almost every single practice.
Yeah, and as much special teams as he has to play over the years and all, and the physical nature of him having to be tucked on the end of that line of scrimmage so much as well, in addition to that, it says a lot, the availability and all. And boy, you see these guys right, left, miss a practice here and there right now, and we didn't get to the housekeeping part of the show, and we might not, or we might have to do it after our interview later on. But that really is impressive when it comes to him, and I appreciate you posting on that. One thing also, if for those of you who may have missed it this morning, I went through and contextualized all 70-something targets that Bucky Hodges had during his final season at Virginia Tech. Now, obviously, he was used mostly as a wide receiver that that final season there. So please note that when you go through it. But really, it should give you a good idea of what you're dealing with Bucky Hodges, and it's pretty much as I described the other day. Now, obviously, this has nothing to do with his blocking, and really, there's not a lot to post, highlight-wise when it does come to his blocking. But as a pass catcher, he could do some things. He didn't run an extensive route tree. He was able to get vertical down the field at times. Doesn't have, for a guy with his immeasurables, didn't have a big leaping ability or things along those those lines. But trust me, if you go through and click on about 20 or 30 of those pass targets of his, you should get a pretty good of idea of what kind of player you're dealing with there. All right, moving on to wide receivers. Those lines are getting a little short, aren't they, Alex?
They really are. I mean, even Juju didn't finish practice today, and again, I'm not super worried about that. They're just being cautious with that left knee. Two guys that stepped up today I tweeted about that have been really quiet in camp so far was Tevin Jones and Trey Griffey, two guys that are fairly similar. Now, Griffey's played more of the outside Z spot. Jones has gotten more in the slot. But guys, I think that have made some tough competitive catches today. I thought Jones may be a little bit more than Trey Griffey. Griffey did some of his damage in the 7-on-7 period. But yeah, two guys that needed a good day to be talked about, and I thought had a good day to be talked about.
And what does it say about coming off of a night practice where, I know they weren't in pads, today, but these guys have had a heck of a stretch here, right? And then, you're coming off of a night practice, it had to be a tough turnaround for some of these younger guys. But what does it say about their ability? And look, obviously both those guys, are extreme long shots to probably even make the practice squad at this point. But I think it does say something to come out and have a good practice like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows some mental toughness. And one guy, and I didn't follow it too closely. I know some of the other reporters have some other quotes, but some miscommunication with Juju today, and I think some frustration from Ben. Fowler might have tweeted about that. And so Juju, not that I'm super worried about that, but a little tough stretch here for Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, you just think it's just not being on the details or being distracted or what?
Yeah, I don't know. It could just be something, going on in his personal life. We have to remember that. And I'm not knocking him for, being the fun-loving guy that he is. It could be something serious or not. It could be the injury. The injury, I'm sure, is maybe bugging him a little bit with that knee that you're trying to get over. Frustration in general. This guy, we talk about guys that get nicked up all the time. Juju's just had a laundry list of injuries these first 2 years. So I don't know exactly what the issue is. I'm sure he'll bounce back, but a little too tough for 2 days for him.
So I guess at the end of practice, it was, Hunter and Washington?
Hunter, Washington, Griffey, Jones, Patterson, and I think that's it. Thomas gets reps. Henderson doesn't ever get reps in these for some reason. But no DHB, no Juju, obviously no AB. Yeah, line's getting thin.
All right, how the young quarterbacks doing?
Thought a couple nice practices from Mason Rudolph. 2-minute drill today I thought was really impressive. He led the team down for a touchdown through to James Washington. Not only just the execution of the play, but what's going on pre-snap. Getting guys to the huddle or getting guys to the line in a no-huddle environment, getting the snap off clean, getting the communication to be clean, identifying blitzes, help setting the protection. I think that was on the Samuels pick up a Hilton. I think that was Rudolph pre-snap helping to point that out and getting guys in the right spot. So, I like that from Rudolph. I think he's seeing the field a little bit better. He had a full field read in the Friday night practice, coming from right to left and hitting, I think it was Jones or Griffey on a curl for a completion. So, seeing some good things from him, some accuracy on the move, good ball placement, showing touch when he has to. Had a really pretty pass over Farrington Huguenin, complete to McKeever down the middle. So, starting to get some good stuff from Rudolph. Better day for Dobbs, so he did not lead the team to a touchdown in the 2-minute drill, which always a little disappointing, but not always, in his control.
All right, defensive side of football. Did the defensive line interior? I know Cameron Hayward didn't work Friday night, but yep. I know Mike Tomlin had kind of challenged the interior part of the defensive line the other day. Did you see any response?
I thought the run session was still pretty good for the offense. I don't know exactly who I'd go with the victor there. No, I think I'd go with the offense because Connor had a nice run. He trucked Morgan Burnett. It was pretty nasty. Fitz Toussaint broke a big run for like a 20, 25-yard gain. That might have been a touchdown, but Toussaint kind of lost his own footing. So I still feel like the offense was getting the better. For the defensive line, not a whole lot to talk about. We know Hayward, we know Toot, we know Alulu. Walton didn't practice Friday. He was back today. I think really that 6th defensive lineman spot battle is coming down to McCullers and Frazier. get Greg Gilmore, who was one of my camp darlings. Nothing really from him. Parker Cawthron, no thanks. Kendall Vickers, a little, but not so much. I mean, Casey Sales has shown up a little bit against the run, but I don't see him as a serious threat. So I think it's really shaping up to be McCullers versus Frazier.
We haven't talked about hooks at all, right? People probably forget he's even on the roster, right?
Yeah, I almost did when I was talking about it. And Hooks made a little bit of a push for the team last year, getting some second-team reps in, I think, the third preseason game, but just wasn't quite there. So, yeah, just stars didn't align. I think you got to keep a guy that's more nose tackle capable, and Hooks plays more end, and, Walton has that spot. So, I mean, Hooks is Hooks. He's been around for a while. I just think it's kind of maxed out for him.
You don't expect to see much Hayward or Tuitt or probably even Hargrave, right, in the preseason opener?
Yeah, very little. They still have, I think, again, 12 defensive linemen, so get the other guys time, maybe a series at most. But honestly, if it was me, I wouldn't even dress Hayward or Tuitt, let him go.
All right, did I finally jinx Bud Dupree?
No gold star.
I'm out of gold stars, aren't I? He made it quite a way, but according to Mike Tomlin, and I don't think it happened during backs and backers. I think Tomlin said it happened the session after that. But evidently in concussion protocol Friday night, that carried over into Saturday. Did not practice, and here we are, right slap dab in the middle of training camp, and both starting outside linebackers are not practicing.
I think it's the hallmark of a Steelers training camp is not having both edge rushers available. I feel like that happens every year. I'm not entirely sure when it happened. I believe it happened during that run session. There was a play where Dupree and another linebacker came flying in. There was a big collision. I'm guessing it happened then, just a guess on my part. But yeah, he'll probably be out. I'm guessing at least a week. You won't see him for a little bit. They got to make sure he goes through the process and procedure to get back from that. For the guys that are available, though, Matthew Thomas played some outside linebacker today. And again, partially because the lines are thin, but I think he's a guy that can win with a quick first step. Keon Adams, his hand use, I think, is exceptional. His ability to stay clean, a variety of rushes. I think there's things that have impressed me about him there. Ola Denier has been similar in a different way in terms of his strength and leverage, being able to rip under guys and even beat DeCastro once today, which, I mean, for a Denier in his position to beat DeCastro is saying a lot. Adams did not run first team, though, today. It was Huguenin to start, and Denier got reps at left outside linebacker, and Adams plays on the left side. So I don't know if that's a message being sent or if I'm reading too much into it, but you'd think, without Watt and Dupree, it'd be really, first team reps for Adams, and not the case.
I wonder if they're going to have to add somebody before Thursday. If they lose one more, I'm sure they're going to have to, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
No, definitely if they lose one more, maybe even if they don't lose one more. Watt is working his way back. I saw him do the kind of the first step of the rehab today, where you do some light jogging and just kind of some exercises in the middle field. So I think he's going to come back to practice after the preseason game. I think it's a Saturday. That's my guess, but he's working his way back. It's still going to be probably about a week for him, though.
Where's the deepest group right now, numbers-wise, health? Is it safety or corner?
I mean, defensive line's got all 12 guys healthy.
Okay, yeah, that's probably where the next move comes in, right? If they need one.
Yeah, that's where I thought it was going to be when they brought in the last slew of moves and they cut Leslie instead. So yeah, probably my guess is the defensive lineman goes.
Because you're not doing Matthew Thomas any favors. I understand why it's a numbers thing, but you're not doing him any favors doing that, right?
Yeah, definitely not.
Inside John Bostic, and down the stretch they come. It's John Boom Bostic on the outside, Dirty Red on the inside. No, actually it is John Bostic. I think 3 days in a row now, right? Getting that starting slot there. Boy, Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller on Sirius, they're they chomping at the bit last night, asking questions about John Bostic and to Tomlin and to Colbert, and trying to say, and they had Bostic on himself, and I wrote up a lot about that, and boy, the comments that I transcribed of Tomlin talking about Bostic and how good a communicator he is, and then I thought Bostic gave a good interview too, talking about how he was kind of was like, why me with all these injuries and getting shuffled between 4 different teams. And then he looked back at it and he said, look, I've been kind of fortunate now because I've played in all these different, he's playing in the Tampa 2, he's playing the Bear front, he's playing the quad defense, on top of it. Then he goes back to Indianapolis where they had to be real creative there and play more along the lines the way he did at Florida. So this guy, do you realize he has over like 2,000 snaps, defensive snaps already, and Matakevich has less than 100. So
and Tomlin was praising Bostic today too, right?
Last night. Yeah, last night during that, and actually I think that interview took place Thursday or Friday afternoon one. But regardless, I think Bostic has made his move now. Later in camp it's probably to be expected, but even so, I would not be surprised if Matakevich starts against Philadelphia.
Yeah, we'll see. And honestly, Dave, I think this was all part of their schedule. Get Matakevich the first, bulk and Bostic the second bulk because it's been, 5 and 5 practices across. I think that this battle will not be decided until after the third preseason game. I mean, you mentioned before Fiala and Ferrier. I feel like it's almost identical to that.
I do as well. Fort's having a nice run here, right?
Yeah, another forced fumble today and recovered it. That's at least his second forced fumble in recovery so far. Yeah, no, like I said before, I think it's a competitive group that's rising up. You've seen Kelsey make some plays. Colombo's be to a little lesser extent, but he's stuck around over Darnell Leslie. So, we'll see what happens when they get into a stadium. But I think overall, the group as a whole has raised the level of each other and are playing pretty well.
You think Fort's still ahead? I mean, he's a lot better. Obviously, special teams player, or I should say, an established special teams player. I mean, Matthew Thomas is really going to have to show a lot on special teams, and then hope that they, one of those two are going to have to hope they keep 5.
I think that they will keep 5. If I was doing a 53 right now, I'd keep 5, and I'd have, Fort and Thomas be 4 and 5.
Are you keeping 5 outside linebackers too? You almost have to, right?
I mean, Adeniyi is making a case for it. I worry about him on special teams and coverage because I don't think he's going to be particularly strong there. But as a pass rusher, he's doing well. So I'd lean 4 outside and 5 inside right now.
Jeez, and okay. I mean, we'll see. I would.
Is Adeniyi your 5th?
Yeah, I want to see some of these guys. I don't know. Farrington's been around for a little bit. I just don't know if he's going to give you anything on special teams either. But, I mean, let's look at the spot they're having to replace really technically is Moats, and that was 80 special team snaps or something. So probably a right or left guard on the punt return team type of role.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So, all right, defensive backs and those lines getting shaken up, and it caused one of the younger guys to see a little time, and Mike Hilton stood out a little bit today and talk about last night as well, too.
Yeah, Jamar Summers, getting first-team reps. There's a sentence I did not expect to say in training camp, but hey, good for the UDFA rookie to get some time and get a longer look, which is always important for a young guy. Yeah, I thought Burns is having some really good days, and Mike Hilton is just a freak. I mean, he's competitive for every ball. He's so explosive, out of his pedal, out of his break. He was giving Juju fits today, and probably a source of Juju's frustration, to be honest with you. And I think just Hilton is just a gamer, just a certified beast. A guy that can play the run, can blitz, play free safety if you have to. Is good in coverage, good at the catch point. I love watching Mike Hilton play.
You starting to see more of this 2-2-7?
Yeah, they're rolling it out there, that dollar, and I like to see it. I'm excited about that, but I want to see dime because I want to see who the 6 DBs are. When you have 7, you're throwing everybody out there. Edmonds and Sutton, they all get to play, but when you have 6, you got to make a choice. So I'm selfishly wanting to see that. But yeah, 2-2-7, taking off both inside linebackers. Burnett's rolling down to the box. Same with Sutton. I'm guessing Burnett's going to be your key communicator there, and I think you're going to see it this year. You saw a very small taste of that Week 17 last year. I think you're going to see more of it this season.
Bostic was talking about during that interview, and I hope to get to write this up here in the near future too, about they need to find a way to get Vince Williams. He was talking about how Mike Tomlin's good about getting finding what players do good and not so well, and then maximizing kind of the things that they do well. And he talked about how they concerted effort, hopefully, to get Vince Williams singled up on them running backs. Because those his exact quote was something along the lines of most running backs around the league don't know how to block and don't want to block. And if you get Vince Williams singled up on some of those on a high percentage of those guys, he's going to truck them. And look, we saw that happen like 5 times last year alone. And how many sacks did Vince have? What, 7 or
7.5? Yeah.
He could easily get that number again. So, that's something to look for as well, and Bostic made note of that. So, all right, Edmonds coming along nicely still, I suppose. All the draft picks, really, for the most part. Of course, Chooks is missing time. Washington, I think, had a good couple of practices, right?
Yeah, he's been solid making contested catches, being able to find the football, adjust, good body control, good hands, physical player. I mean, he's kind of checking all those baseline boxes. Marcus Allen had a good Friday Night Lights practice. I think he kind of created an incompletion on the screen to Samuel. Samuel's heard footsteps off the ball, and then there was another one where it was a fake bubble screen down the seam for a wide open Tevin Jones, and Allen came screaming over from the left side and broke the pass up. So, Allen's definitely a box guy, someone that plays better the closer he is to the line of scrimmage, but I've seen him a little bit more, especially Friday, than I had previously.
All right, before we get to our winners and losers, we have a few more minutes here before we're going to get Trey Johnson on the line here. But in the meantime, we'll take care of a little bit of the housekeeping here. Mike Tomlin said after practice that had a number of guys that missed today with what can be characterized as day-to-day like injuries. Joe Hayden, Brian Allen evidently left practice early today. Any idea what's ailing either one of those two guys?
No idea on Allen, but I saw him ride the cart up with everybody else. He looked fine to me, so I assume it's super minor.
All right. Tomlin said, Darius Hayward-Bay didn't finish practice. Juju didn't practice. I think he's still dealing with a minor knee issue. He says hopefully we'll get those guys back out here tomorrow. No new news on any other things that I mentioned in greater detail with some of the other guys, Tomlin said. Bud Dupree did have a concussion, so he's in the protocol. We'll do what's appropriate there in terms of getting him back when he's ready to go. The rest of the things are camp-related type things. Do you have any camp-related type things, Alex?
I'm a little tired. Does that count? Juju did practice today. I just want to clarify that. He didn't finish it, but he did practice today.
All right, and sitting out along with Bud Dupree, Joe Hayden, and Brian Allen were, of course, Chooks Okorafor, Antonio Brown, Cody Sensabaugh, still out with that back. That's, 2 practices for him? 2 or 3, right?
No, today was the first one he sat out fully. He got hurt Friday night.
Okay, he left.
Yep.
He got hurt Friday night. Okay, Vance McDonald with that foot. Oh, Lord have mercy.
He's no boot. He's walking fine. I'm just trying to throw a little reassurance to you guys.
All right, I hope so. T.J. Watt with that hamstring. You mentioned him earlier in the show and how he's trying to work his way back. Marcus Tucker. Now's no time for Marcus Tucker to be missing practices right here. He needs to get himself right and back on that field before this first preseason game. Anybody else that I'm missing that I did not name in that post?
I think you got him all. LT Walton return. Did you say Brian Allen didn't practice, or he didn't finish practice?
Mike Tomlin said, it's hard to read, through his quote, try to transcribe and see what he means. Yeah. But he says he had a number of guys that missed today with what can be characterized as day-to-day like injuries. Pause. Joe Hayden, Brian Allen.
Okay, Hayden didn't practice at all. Allen started. Juju started. Neither of those guys, I guess, finished. But I don't know, Tomlin. It's Tomlin. He's a Rubik's Cube to figure out.
Right. The good, I know people are, and I get this on Twitter, and I get it, in the comment section, and I know several of you feel like, man, what's happening this year? All these people dinged up. But Alex has been there over the last 4 or 5 years, and of course I've been writing these things up for years. This is a great camp so far from a health standpoint.
Absolutely.
Hope I don't jinx it, knock on wood. For those of you that go to that'll be in church tomorrow, continue doing whatever you're doing, because it really is, right as of right now, from a health standpoint, it seems to be a solid camp. Am I wrong?
No, it's been great. You avoid disaster with Ramon Foster, and the other guys are all, I think, really minor. And again, you look at other camps around the league that are losing guys for the year left and right, significant players, San Diego, Green Bay, Carolina. They've all lost, guys expected to start or contribute heavily with what Verrett, Ryan, and Cockrell, and the Steelers don't have that. So you're being cautious. If there's a time to be cautious, it's today. It's now in camp. I'm very happy with where they're at from an injury standpoint.
And it sounds like he's working these guys, giving Pouncey, last night off, Cameron Hayward last night off, and Ben, as well. So I think he's managing this thing the right way. Now, of course, that injury, a lot of it has to do with luck sometimes, as well. So right now, I'm not overly worried about the way this thing looks right now. I would like to see Vance McDonald back sooner rather than later then. All right, Alex, hopefully, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break here. We're going to come back on the other side and hopefully have Steelers cornerback Trey Johnson, undrafted rookie free agent out of Villanova. Stand by for that interview now. All right, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast, and we're pleased to be joined on this Saturday night by Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Trey Johnson, a rookie undrafted free agent out of Villanova. Trey is currently on the Steelers injured reserve list with a shoulder injury. We'll talk to him a little bit about what life has been like so far during his rookie season with the Steelers. Trey, welcome to the Terrible Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
All right, we're glad to have you on. Let's start first with the injury. It was a little bit of a surprise when Mike Tomlin announced upon the arrival to training camp that you had suffered a shoulder injury. You, of course, had to get waived injured. You cleared waivers and reverted back to the Steelers reserve injured list with that shoulder injury. It sounds like you're going to be on IR for the rest of the season. I think you've had that surgery already done on that shoulder. How did it happen, and what's the prognosis for you?
Yeah, I got the surgery on Monday, actually, so I'm a few days out right now, still kind of fresh, just, relaxing, just making sure everything is right. I got another follow-up with the doctor later on this week, and then, right now we're just kind of excited for what the future holds, getting into rehab and different things like that, just kind of facing it head on. This is a surgery that I actually had on my other shoulder when I was in college, so I know what the rehab is going to be like. I know, it's not easy, and it's definitely going to be a hard road, but, I'm ready to face it head on and just get right and get ready for it.
What was it, labrum, or and when did it happen?
Yeah, it was my labrum, and I heard it during OTAs, during rookie minicamp and OTAs. I was actually covering somebody on a deep row. I was actually covering James Washington. And we just kind of got tangled up, and when I hit the ground, it came out. So, we popped it back in, kind of got it looked at, and it didn't seem as much of a big problem at the point in time, but we ended up getting an MRI on it and everything like that, and that's when we saw the tear and the potential bone loss that was in it.
All right, now coming out of Villanova, your pro day and all, and looking back at your measurables, boy, what exactly did you run? I've seen it. I know it was under 4.4. I know it was in that 4.3 range. That was fast. Tell us a little bit about how that pro day went, and I think even reports way back then, the Steelers were showing some sort of interest with you way back in the early stages pre-draft.
Yeah, they were. I talked to them. I didn't talk to them often, but I talked to them early. The Steelers are an organization that they work real quietly because a lot of other organizations like to follow suit and behind them and try and steal their players that they're potentially looking at. So they're a lot more quiet. But when it comes to my pro day, it was something that me and my family and really everybody that helped me prepare for it kind of seen coming. It was something that I knew that the 40 was going to be something that got their attention, but the rest of the drills, when it came to my backhoe and coming out of my brakes and different things like that, I knew that's really what I needed in order to keep their attention. So my pro day, I went into it with a clear head, and I felt like I had prepared for this moment, for a long time, and I was ready, and I was happy that I performed the way that I performed.
Trey, I heard Tom Bradley, the Steelers defensive backs coach, talk about his relationship with you and getting to know you. Can you kind of talk about, the relationship you've had with Tom Bradley and what you like about him and what he's taught you so far?
Yeah, Coach Bradley is a great defensive backs coach. He comes from a real prestigious school, and and he definitely knows what he's talking about. And he's somebody who was always open to learning and also teaching. You know, whenever you kind of ask him like, "Yo, coach, this question, that question," you know, he either has an answer for it, and if he doesn't have the answer, he's going to search endlessly to find that answer and get it back to you. You know, so he's definitely a good coach, and I'm excited to, you know, keep working with him for the rest of this year and hopefully years to come.
Going back to the injury, I know we don't want to dwell on that too much, but you said in college you had the issue with the other shoulder. I think in 2014 you missed a year with a leg injury. Am I correct about that?
No, it was my shoulder. It was the shoulder that I mentioned. Yeah, that was the year I missed. It was kind of around this same time, except for obviously in 2014. I tore my labrum during the spring practice, and then I had to, you know, get kind of, I guess you could say, emergency surgery, and then ended up missing my sophomore year with it. So that was the year I redshirted.
Okay. What I know you mentioned earlier, but what can specifically you take away from dealing with the injury before and overcoming it, coming back, making it to the NFL, and apply that to your situation now?
Man, just that, you know, knowing that it's not going to be easy, and it's something that you have to take pride in the everyday rewards and, you know, the little goals. You can't just look at the big picture and be like, oh, I need to be cleared. Like, you know, the first thing I need to do is I need to get out of this sling. You know, the first thing I need to do after that is, you know, get my range of motion and get it stronger and get, you know, able to move around and different things like that. You have to you got to eat the whole sandwich, you know, one bite at a time. You can't just
right.
Get the whole thing and be like, I want to just smash it. You know, you got to take the little feats, the little goals. You know, you got to be proud of them, but, you know, keep moving on and looking at that next picture, because, you know, eventually you're going to be done, and that's the ultimate goal. You know, so just making sure you're done and making sure you're stronger than when you had to get the surgery. You know, and making sure you come back better than ever.
Now, a lot, you know, you're listed as a cornerback with the Steelers, but I don't think a lot of people realize that during your time at Villanova that you played all over in that secondary. I mean, we've seen you in some two deep situations there. I think at some safety, and I think I spotted, you know, in just a quick rundown of some tape about, you know, a dozen snaps in the slot. So that means they moved you all over. Now, do the Steelers primarily see you as a cornerback, or has there been, you know, maybe any talk about down the road, maybe some safety?
I mean, that's a Steelers question, but I know, you know, from my standpoint of it, it's something that I feel like I can do. That comes with learning the playbook and experience. You know, I started to move around a lot more in the Villanova secondary around my junior year and my senior year, because I know the playbook. You know, I knew what everybody was doing, so it was a lot easier for me to move from cornerback one play, and then the next play I'm at safety, and then, you know, the play after that I'm in the nickel, just because, you know, I already knew what I was supposed to be doing. So, you know, it didn't really matter where you plug me in, wherever you needed me to plug in. You know, I was able to do that, and, you know, hopefully I'm able to get to that point with the Steelers where, you know, I know the nickel coverages, I know the nickel run gaps, or the cornerback roles and the safety roles. You know, and if I do know that, you know, I feel like I can play anywhere in the secondary, you know, so that's really something that's not completely up to me, but I'm definitely open to doing it, man. I love being able to move around in the secondary and showing versatility. That's the way you make plays.
Absolutely, and, you know, I think that's one of the things. You go back when they drafted Cam Sutton, you know, a couple of years ago, his ability to be able to draw out, you know, where everybody on the field is supposed to be, not only him. Where are you most comfortable? I assume most of your snaps, because I know you played both outside corner spots. Did you have a preference of right or left side?
No, I don't have a preference when it comes to corner. I just like being out on that island. You know, it's a lot of fun. You know, the one-on-one matchup of it, and just kind of, it's a whole different mentality. It's funny because, like, every position in the secondary overall is the same, but they're different in their own respective, you know, traits. You know, in the corner you got that one-on-one matchup. You know, when you're in the slot, it's still a one-on-one matchup, but it's more so you got the linemen so close to you, so you got to be prepared for run gaps and different things like that. And then when you're back at safety, you know, you get to see the whole field. So it's not one-on-one at all, but you can see everything. So you just get to diagnose and just kind of play fast, and that's more of the natural thinking position. You know, you just watch everybody and make everybody right.
Did you have to do a lot of pattern matching at Villanova?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. We ran man pretty much all 4 years at Villanova. Man coverage is my most comfortable coverage. That's what I ran in high school. That's what I ran in college, and that's what we run at up in the Steelers.
Trey, just my last question for you. Can you kind of take me through a typical day? I know right now you just got off surgery. You're going to be rehab heavy, but I know you told us before the podcast that you're back in Pittsburgh right now. Have you been with the team at all during camp? And kind of just take me through your time with the team, if any, so far here, and what's a typical day for Trey Johnson?
Yeah, I was up there for training camp, when we did, first few weeks. So it kind of depends on the day, but like the typical days, we wake up. Usually, the rookies kind of got like some type of walkthrough or some type of stretch or something that we have to go to, just kind of morning get right, make sure your body is right and stretched out and flexible and ready for practice. And then, you got breakfast. After you eat breakfast, you got a little meeting, go to lunch. And then after lunch, we have either a walkthrough, the rookies have a walkthrough. And then after the walkthrough, you probably get like a 45 an hour minute break. And then practice starts up, while you're getting ready for practice within that time frame. Then after practice, you go to dinner, and then right after dinner, you go straight to meetings around like 7:30, I think it is. And then from meetings, the meetings probably run until like 10, and then lights out at 11. So get that little hour-long break, to make your phone calls to your parents or whoever is important to you, and get to sleep and wake up in the morning and get it going again.
What was more overwhelming to you upon arriving, as a undrafted free agent? Was it the speed of the game? Was it the complexities of the playbook? I mean, you hear people talk about that all the time. Oh, you get to the NFL, the speed of the game is so much faster, or so much diverse playbook terminology and all like that. Which was the biggest for you to deal with?
The biggest for me to deal with, I'd probably say the speed of the game. Both of them were definitely difficult, when it comes to terminology, with the playbook, but the playbook is a lot of, it's funny because a lot of this stuff is the same, but like you just call it something different in a different system, like whereas, we might call it at Villanova, we might call man coverage like match. But, in the Steelers, we call it something completely different. We might call it like banjo or something like that, So you just got to fix the right terminology with the right word. And then, with the speed of the game, it's just something that you can't simulate or emulate, It's something that in order for you to understand, you have to be out there and you have to be, trying to register things so quick. And then, with that playbook, you're trying to remember your what you linked in your mind to the correct play, but, they're snapping the ball, so you really didn't have time to think about it. So, just the speed of the game in that sense, they go hand in hand. So just kind of understanding the speed of the game and, thinking faster, but you're not playing while thinking, if that makes sense.
All right. I think Alex has one more for you, and then we'll wrap you up.
Yeah, just one that popped into my head. I guess if there's any silver lining to your injury, was that the guy that, I guess, replaced you was Malik Reeves, which I think is a guy pretty well, wearing your 38 as well. Yeah. What can you tell us about Malik Reeves and what kind of player the Steelers have in him?
Bro, man, you got a baller in Malik Reeves, man. He was my roommate for 3 out of the 4 years at Villanova. He's another Florida kid. He's a real physical corner. He's not afraid to get up there and press and put his hands on somebody and then come downhill and make a tackle. He's a great cover corner. Malik is a complete package. I'm real happy that he's up here with me. Just to be able to kind of share that with him and just keep that friendship and that bond going. That's my brother, so I'm real happy to see him be able to chase his dream.
Well, Trey, listen, I know it's kind of disappointing that your rookie season is going to be spent on IR, but, the fact that they're going to keep you on there, I think says a lot. Your tape's fun to watch. I think, I know that you'll know how to deal with this injury. You'll get back. We'll try to check in with you maybe later on in the season, but keep after it, remain healthy and try to learn as much as you can this season, and I know you will. We wish you nothing but the best, and we appreciate having you on the Terrible Podcast tonight.
Yeah, man, of course, man. I appreciate y'all even having me on the Terrible Podcast, man. I had a lot of fun, had a lot of great questions, man. I'm ready for it. Anytime you guys want to have another one, man, I'm open to it. So I look forward to a great season. Either way, I hope the Steelers have a great season. I look forward to years to come.
All right, Alex. I think that's the first for the for a special edition training camp edition of the podcast. Have a interview with them. So I think first we ought to thank his representation for hooking that up. OTG Sports at OTG Sports on Twitter. Appreciate them for lighting this up for us as well too. They reached out to us, and he sounds like a smart kid, right? I mean, I don't know how much of your tape or of his tape that you've watched of it. I watched, I don't know, about a game and a half of them. So, I mean, it's fun that he moved around. It looks like he's a real versatile defensive back. So this is a guy that, we'll see, once he recovers from this injury and on into his second season.
Yeah, no, definitely a smart kid. I mean, Nova kid. You got to be smart to go there. And yeah, no, I did the scouting report on him after the Steelers signed him, so I learned a decent amount about him. I didn't realize that he had the labrum injury to his other shoulder, so that's going to help really give him good perspective now, and he can kind of take and grow from that. So I was bummed to hear about the injury because I think he's a great athlete who can high point the football and be a playmaker. But best of luck at him, and it was good to get some info on his teammate Millie Greaves, because we're in 38, man. Football is weird like that. You get the same Nova corner taking your number, but happy that Reeves gets an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think it means a lot. And his agency, when they reached out to me, they said he's going to be on IR all season. He's going to be around, and that means a lot. They could have just done some sort of injury settlement with him probably if they wanted to, but they chose to keep him around. That'll be on a split salary, and then he'll get another chance to get after it, and hopefully he got enough time in during OTAs to get his feet wet, to know what's going on. And like you said, he sounds like a smart kid, and the fact that he's played so many positions at Villanova there should play in his favor as well too. So definitely glad to have him on the show.
Yeah, and then the man coverage. You hear it from every player. Steelers play more man. I mean, it's hard for me to tell at camp. I feel like they are playing a little bit more man. They've been more competitive at the catch point, but that's a great fit for him here in Pittsburgh.
All right, winners and losers from the last two nights.
Yeah, I'll just rattle them off. I think we've gone through it pretty thoroughly. But Mason Rudolph, again, seeing progression from him. I'm excited about where he's at and where he's going to continue to go. I thought Adenye's had some good practice, some pass rush reps, and even beating some guys that you wouldn't expect him to beat, like DeCastro. Mike Hilton is just a baller, as I mentioned earlier. The losers, it's tougher for me to try to come up with some great names. I thought Keon Adams has played well, but when I don't see him running first team and I see Huguenin get the reps and Adenye get the reps, I kind of perk up a little bit for that. Is some mental mistakes or some stuff there that's going on that's kind of hurting Adams? I don't know. We'll see. James Summers, a running back, like I said, had a real tough time in backs on backers, and I think he's fallen as the last in the pecking order. Franklin's passed him up pretty quickly. The defensive line reserve guys, the Gilmores, the Cawthorns, the Vickers, haven't seen much from them. And then the guy we mentioned earlier, Marcus Tucker, with that right ankle, I get that it's out of his control. It's unfortunate, but I didn't think Tucker had a particularly good camp before the injury. Now he's missing reps. Other guys have good days. It's not doing him any favors.
All right, 9 practices now in the books already. You'll be out there for number 10 on Sunday. Then I think they have, a day off on Monday. Then they practice Tuesday. I don't think Wednesday's practice is closed, right?
Yeah, walkthrough for Thursday's game.
Walkthrough for Thursday's game. Then we go from there. So we're on the back side of this thing now. So I want you to make it through one more. This day-to-day stuff that you have right now. I want you to get past it one more day, and then you can spend the next day at home writing all day. How's that?
Oh boy, I'm gonna go get myself a McChicken. No lie, I'm gonna go leave this podcast and get some fuel for my heart.
All right, and look, huge shout out. I mean, we've had just so many people reach out via email and on Twitter, and a lot of you are using that Spreaker app or going to the website now to listen to the podcast. It just amazes me the amount of support that David and Alex and myself have gotten from the listenership. I probably should come to expect that, really. I mean, you guys have been great. It's overwhelming sometimes, and I hope everybody that reached out to me on Twitter, I hope I got back to most of you. If not, I apologize. It's just so hard to follow that time timeline sometime. But in the meantime, Alex and I will be back at it again on Sunday night. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com, hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. And as always, thanks for listening to this special edition of the Terrible Podcast with Dave and tonight Alex Kozora. Good night.